That stone statue had 2 claws facing upwards. Both feet were huge, where one was set on the ground and another pointed at it. At a glance, it looked like a guy who was frozen while he was trying to escape. This stone statue is a little scary. Floey said, Yu, is this a stone statue? No idea. Sima Yu walked over and looked at the statue. That fierce expression and murder in its eyes really caused one to tremble subconsciously. SSSS. Little Golden suddenly slithered down from Sima Yu's body and grew in size. The scent of an ancient divine beast was released completely. It looked greedily at the statue, then when everyone was distracted, it ate the statue with a single bite. Little Golden, it's dangerous. Sima Yu cried out, but she was unable to stop it. Little Golden swallowed the statue, then turned around to see Sima Yu looking at it with a disapproving gaze. It stuck its head in front of her, rubbing against her. Little Golden, why are you so disobedient? Sima Yu's expression was dark. Yu, come on, I couldn't control it. Little Golden said aggrievedly. I'm not saying that you can't eat it, but that was too dangerous. Sima Yu raged. What if Little Golden ate it but was unable to digest it? Or what if something bad happened after that? It won't. Little Golden brushed against her intimately, I can digest it. What if a spirit beast is inside there? What if it was alive and did something to you? I would have already digested it by then. Little Golden said. If you feel uncomfortable anywhere, make sure to tell me. Got it? Sima Yu nagged anxiously. Alright. Little Golden used spirit energy to wrap up the statue in its body, choosing not to digest it immediately. With a shake of its body, it returned to a dainty little thing, wrapping itself around Sima Yu's neck. Let's continue on ahead. Sima Yu said to others. They continued to walk forward as Floey pulled along a dazed Enlay. At this moment, Enlay had finally recollected herself from her earlier shock. She didn't think that the little guy around Sima Yu's neck was actually an ancient divine beast. An ancient divine beast. Even the secret clans didn't have an ancient divine beast. This young miss that she had just acknowledged was able to easily produce a precious pill, and her spirit beasts were not only many but powerful. Her intuition told her there was more than this. Sima Yu had more to her than she let on. Sima Yu's name was very resounding in the inner regions, but not everyone in the inner regions knew about her. Of course, the secret black-clothed organization definitely knew about her and probably hated her guts. They continued to walk forwards, and they didn't walk that far before they saw a similar stone statue. Little Golden was on her neck and eager to go again, but Sima Yu immediately grabbed it, saying, if you do something so dangerous again, I will toss you back in. Little Golden's raised tail was lowered again. Anyway, if it wanted it, Yu would give it. It didn't have to snatch for it. Sima Yu saw that Little Golden was obedient, so she walked over with Wu Lingyu. She stretched forth a hand and touched the stone statue. It was icy cold and a murderous aura flowed from her fingertips to her body. Lingyu, is this a stone statue or a sealed ancient spirit beast? Sima Yu asked. I'm thinking that there shouldn't be people who come here to carve stone statues. Wu Lingyu said. So you're saying that the one earlier on was an ancient spirit beast as well? Sima Yu's eyes shone. I wonder whether it will be alive if it's released. It's likely to be alive. Wu Lingyu said, look at its stone skin. Sima Yu looked at a piece of stone that had landed on the ground near the stone statue. It was a thick layer. If it were taken away, it wouldn't look special. It looked like an ordinary piece of ore. If it were dead, the stone skin probably wouldn't have fallen. Her eyes shone, a lot of it has already fallen. It shows that this guy is going to come out soon. I heard before that, if an ancient spirit beast is sealed and nobody comes to release it, it will come out on its own after a period of time. Seems like it's true. Wu Lingyu said. Little Golden was an ancient divine beast, and the time it was sealed was not considered a long time before Sima Yu released her. Seeing this, it should be coming out on its own. I wonder what it will be like when it appears. She muttered as she walked around the stone statue. I'll keep it away first and wait for the time to come before releasing it. She kept the stone statue into her spirit pagoda, and the people inside immediately surrounded the stone statue and studied it. They continued to walk forwards and, after walking for a short while, they saw another stone statue. Once was a coincidence, twice was fate. So what did 3 encounters mean? Aren't there quite a few spirit beasts? Sima Yu pursed her lips. It's true. However, you shouldn't worry about having too much of a good thing. Wu Lingyu smiled when he saw the way she was acting. That's true. Sima Yu didn't study it much this time and kept the stone statue away. Let's continue heading it. SSSS. Little Golden came down from her neck and flew towards a stone. Her eyes were round as she stared at her. You want this as well? Sima Yu asked. There's good things inside. Little Golden told her. Sima Yu walked over and saw the ordinary ore. She stretched a hand out and touched the lines running on it, asking, what's inside? Is it also a spirit beast? I don't know. There's a very dense aura inside. Little Golden said. Sima Yu didn't think about why she couldn't sense the aura inside while Little Golden could. She believed what Little Golden said and tossed the stone into the spirit pagoda. There's also that piece. There's something inside there too. Little Golden said. Sima Yu moved that piece in as well. You guys should stand back, Little Golden said. What do you want to do? Sima Yu asked worriedly. There are still good things here. We have to take them away together. You guys should retreat backwards. Sima Yu told everyone else about Little Golden's intentions and they retreated to a passageway. Little Golden turned huge and its tail grew longer. With a wave of its tail, it hit the top wall and the entire wall cracked like a spider web. It swung its tail again and those stone layers fell down, revealing strange stones of all shapes. Those stones were merely revealed and you couldn't see their real shapes. Who knew what lay inside them? Are these ores? Little Seven asked Little Golden. That's right, that's right. But I don't know what's inside. Little Golden's voice was happy. No matter what it was, it would help it increase in strength. Sima Yu looked at the stones that were embedded in the wall. Some were 1 to 2 meters tall while others were only the size of a palm. Little Seven, I'll leave these to you. You're the strongest. You'll definitely be able to dig them out. Sima Yu patted Little Seven's shoulder. Alright, watch me. Little Seven walked over and punched the surrounding stone. After the stone wall loosened, she grabbed some stones and pulled them down. Unlay saw Little Seven give a punch and didn't think that everything on the ceiling above would suddenly fall down. Sima Yu hugged one of the watermelon-sized stones and touched the layer of stone. Then, she looked at it carefully, saying, there should be a spirit herb in there. An ancient spirit herb from the primordial times? Little Seven was very interested in spirit herbs. She ran over and said, Yu, hurry, open it and take a look. After saying this, she licked her lips and stared directly at the ore in Sima Yu's hand. Sima Yu saw how impatient she was and said, don't be anxious, what if it turns out not to be? You said that it is, so it definitely is. Little Seven was confident and her words were filled with confidence. Sima Yu laughed and knelt down, taking out tools to open the stone and began working on it. Ever since Enlay followed Sima Yu, she felt like her heart had suffered multiple attacks. Alchemist, doctor, me-heir, Little Golden, Little Seven, and now she found out that she was a spirit seeker master. A dual occupation spirit master was not that rare in the Eastern Lai clan, but she did not have as good of an environment as those from the clan nor the resources they had. Sima Yu was quick in her opening of the stone. In a short moment, only the size of a carrot remained. Enlay wanted to take a closer look, so she subconsciously ran closer. Sima Yu slowly peeled off the last layer of stone, and a ray of light shone through a crack in the ore. A fragrant smell wafted out, and everyone who smelt it felt refreshed. It really was a spirit herb. Sima Yu saw the medicinal ingredient that she couldn't recognize. Even the dirt on the roots seemed to contain moisture. Do you recognize this? She handed the pill ingredient to Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu took it and shook his head, saying, I don't. This should be an ingredient that had long since gone extinct. Yu. Little Seven's eyes were trained on the ingredient, however, she wasn't like Little Golden and didn't snatch and eat it immediately. On this point, Little Golden was like a ravenous child with no self-control. While Little Seven was like a teenager. She wanted to eat it, but she wouldn't be so impulsive. Sima Yu took the ingredient. It looked a little like a person's 2 legs as it had 2 points. She broke off one of it and gave it to Little Seven. Then, she took the remaining with its roots to grow in the spirit pagoda. Little Seven ate the spirit herb immediately. When she was done, she smacked her lips twice, as if she hadn't had enough. Enlay didn't think that Sima Yu would hand the spirit herb to Little Seven without even thinking. It was an ancient spirit herb. If she sold it outside, it would fetch an immeasurable wealth. Little Golden had eaten a stone statue and she had yet to reprimand it before giving Little Seven the spirit herb to eat. She treated her contracted beasts really well. She was not like those who merely took their contracted beasts as tools. Perhaps she was different from Eastern Lai Li. Perhaps she was worth following. After ascertaining that Little Spirit had planted the half of the spirit herb, she said to everyone, let's continue on. Little Golden, you have to find some useful ores. Little Golden slithered on the ground to the front and shook its tail and Sima Yu. Then, it hurried up ahead and wandered around. Little Golden slithered on the ground to the front and shook its tail and Sima Yu. Then, it hurried up ahead and wandered around. Sima Yu led everyone and chased after them. A long moment later, she found Little Seven waiting for them on top of a large boulder. This is? Sima Yu asked. SSSS. Little Golden nodded as it crawled down from the stone. Sima Yu kept the boulder away. It was a huge one and she had no idea what was inside it. There are many stones like this. Enlay saw that there were many stones all around and said. They all look like ores. I wonder if there's anything good inside. Let's talk about them again after going back. Sima Yu said as she moved all the stones inside. Young miss, it's quite weird here. Enlay said. Which part about it is weird? That cave, it looks like it's been carved out intentionally. However, if people really carved it out, why would they not take the items out as well? Enlay asked. Any one of these items on the floor was considered a piece of treasure outside. Just who made it, and who tossed them on the floor? Sima Yu didn't think of this question earlier. Now that she thought about it, it was a little strange. No matter who it is or what the reason, it's all in the past. She said. I heard a saying before. Wu Lingyu said, I heard that someone had found the ancient mine, but nobody knows why it all disappeared. This situation was left unknown. However, an ancient spirit beast appeared and many people guessed that the person who entered was probably killed by that ancient spirit beast. Sima Yu knew that, when he talked about the past, he was referring to tens of thousands of years ago. If it was that time period, even bones wouldn't have remained. Could they have been talking about this place? Sima Yu said, you're saying that we've gained the spoils of those from the past. Lei was speechless. Sima Yu was too lucky, right? She was even able to encounter a place like this? So many people had come, and there were definitely people who had already found the entrance to the mine. Other people aside, she was familiar with Eastern Li. She could definitely sense this place already, but she just didn't say it because she didn't like Sima Yu. Now that they had left, Eastern Li would definitely have led everyone from the Zeastern Li clan into the mines. If there was one, then there would be two. If the Eastern Li clan could enter, that meant that a few other secret clans would definitely have entered as well. However, they actually found a place where there were no traces of people entering. This proved that they were the one and only people who had gone in. Shortly after they entered, they were able to find so many good things. There was even an entrance that others had cut out. Could she continue to use the word luck to describe it? They continued to walk forward and, on the way, kept all the stones that she saw. She couldn't see whether or not they were ores, but even if it was an ordinary rock, she wouldn't leave it behind. In any case, the spirit pagoda was huge. It would be a waste not to keep it. SSSS. Little Golden suddenly stopped walking and suddenly flew to Sima Yu's neck, winding so tightly around her that she almost couldn't breathe. What's wrong? Sima Yu petted Little Golden's head and comforted it. Scared. Little Golden was dazed as it wrapped itself even tighter around her neck. Sima Yu could feel Little Golden trembling and patted its head, saying, don't be scared, we're here. She didn't know what Little Golden could sense, but no matter what it was, she would always stand by the side of her beasts. When Little Golden heard what she said, it relaxed a little, but it still couldn't stop trembling. Enlo was watching Sima Yu comfort her spirit beast from the back, and was thinking back to the time she had seen Eastern Li beat her spirit beast because it didn't do its tasks well. The more she thought about it, the more she felt like following Sima Yu was a rather good decision. She just wondered, when she meets the killer from the Eastern Li clan, would she treat her like she treated her contracted beasts? Probably not. After all, she had just started following her. Why would she offend such a large clan for her sake? Let's go over and take a look to see just what it is that is scaring Little Golden so badly. Sima Yu's clear voice interrupted her train of thought. She recollected herself and followed her forwards. Previous chapter. Next chapter. She wondered if she should place Little Golden back. They walked through the passageway and came to a wide cave. It was so clean that there wasn't a single stone, so just where was the thing that made Little Golden so afraid? Suddenly, Little Golden's body stiffened in fear. Sima Yu pulled it away from her neck and hugged it. If this continued on, she would have to give up breathing. Little Golden, just what is making you so scared? She stroked its back, getting it to calm down. She wondered if she should place Little Golden back. However, if she did this, she would miss out a lot of good things. It's just ahead. Little Golden curled in Yu's embrace, it's in that round shadow. Sima Yu increased the size of her flame, illuminating the entire cave. She only now noticed that there was a little hole as an entrance. She carried Little Golden in her embrace and walked in and saw a stone statue inside. The stone statue was around 2 meters tall with a sharp head. She had no idea what it was. At this point, there was activity stirring in the spirit pagoda. Sima Yu gave a thought and Crimson Flame appeared in front of everyone. Crimson Flame, do you know what this is? Crimson Flame rarely took the opportunity to come out. The moment he did meant that something was happening. Ancestor. After Crimson Flame finished speaking, he turned into his beast form and prostrated. Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu were a little shocked. If the one in the stone statue was Crimson Flame's ancestor, didn't that mean that it was another vermilion bird? Could there be two divine birds existing at the same time? Lei, who was standing at the back, was so shocked that her eyes were bulging wide. She was even thinking that, if anything surprising were to happen, she would already be able to accept that Sima Yu always surprised others. If anything else happened, she believed that she would be able to accept it. However, at this moment, she was looking at the divine vermilion bird with her own eyes. Her heart was beating so fast and she was breathing heavily, but it didn't seem to belong to her anymore. Nobody in the cave dared to make a sound. They quietly watched as Crimson Flame paid his respects to the stone statue. Kacha dash. The soft sounds were exceptionally clear in the quietness of the cave, causing everyone to look at the stone statue. Kacha dash. Kacha dash. After Crimson Flame worshipped it, the stone layer on the statue started to break apart. It was even more useful than the knives that stone cutting masters used. Could a vermilion bird be appearing here? Everyone was shocked by this thought. The ancient texts never said that two vermilion birds could exist at the same time, right? Kacha dash. The stone layer started to fall layer by layer as Crimson Flame prostrated on the ground. He didn't raise his head the entire time. Finally, I've managed to wait for you. A weak sigh carried with it the scent of an ancient desolation. That solemn and imposing manner made Sima Yu and the others bow their heads. Greetings, ancestor. Crimson Flame lowered his head as well. It's good, you're here. Although you are beyond recognition, at least the bloodline managed to continue. In the future, this world, you have to protect it. You must not forget your responsibility. The archaic vermilion bird instructed him. It was definitely a competent divine bird in the past. Your offspring cannot deny ancestors' wishes. Today, I give you the inheritance to aid your healing of your wounds and to recover your strength. A gentle energy enveloped Crimson Flame. You've been contracted? The voice was filled with puzzlement, as if he didn't know how a divine bird like Crimson Flame could have been contracted by a human. Crimson Flame could sense his divine senses being swept, and he immediately heard a long sigh at his ear. Never mind. I didn't think that this kind of twist would occur. The archaic vermilion bird's voice was regretful, but he didn't force him to break the contract. Even if you have formed a contract with someone, you cannot forget the responsibility on your shoulders. Understood. Since she's your contracted master, I will give her a portion of the destiny as well. Sima Yu felt a shock through her body as a bout of energy entered her. It actually caused her to feel the slight foreshadowing of a rank advancement. No way, I can't advance in rank here. Sima Yu got little spirit to suppress the energy. It took a long time before her body recovered. Why do you not advance in rank? The questioning voice was angry that his kind intentions had been rejected. I can't advance in rank right now. Sima Yu raised her head, only then did she see what the archaic vermilion bird looked like. That wasn't right, she didn't clearly see how the archaic vermilion bird was like because his body shone with a faint light. It was obviously not blinding, but it stopped her from seeing him clearly. Why not? Every time I advance in rank, I trigger a lightning tribulation. If I advance in rank here, I'll cause a lot of trouble. Sima Yu said. The archaic vermilion bird fell silent, not speaking again. However, Sima Yu could sense that he looked at her a little differently. To resist the temptation and be clear of one situation is not bad either. The archaic vermilion bird said, to have such a temperament will help him bear the responsibility in the future. I will leave his future to you. Ancestor. Crimson Flame could sense his boundless sorrow, and he sounded like he was choking back a sob. I will accomplish what I have not been able to accomplish. The archaic vermilion bird's voice was softer as the light that enveloped it was focused on Crimson Flame's body instead, giving Crimson Flame its energy. Everyone could now clearly see the archaic vermilion bird. How could the present version of him be like what everyone thought he was like when he was alive? He, who was in front of everyone, was a body that was without a trace of vitality. It was the body of the vermilion bird that had already passed on 10 million to 100 million years ago. Because he had been sealed in the spirit stone, it seemed like he was not rotten yet. The words he said earlier on was probably left behind by the divine consciousness he had as he died. Seeing Crimson Flame, it seemed like he knew it from the start. Crimson Flame. Watching him continue to kneel on the ground suddenly made Sima Yu's heart hurt for him. The other spirit beasts had clansmen, but he didn't. The moment one appeared, another would die. He would forever be alone. Although 100 birds would worship him, that kind of incomparable loneliness, who would understand? The archaic vermilion bird also knew that sort of loneliness, right? That was why, when he knew that Crimson Flame had her to accompany him, he was not particularly angry. From Crimson Flame's memory, he knew that Crimson Flame was not as lonely as he was. He had her as well as the company of so many spirit beasts, so he wouldn't suffer like he did. Little Seven and the others could sense his pain as well, and they could not help but cry. Crimson Flame stood up and turned back into his human form, saying, I want to return to seclude myself and cultivate. Ancestor, gave me some inheritance that I never had before. All right. Sima Yu stepped forward to wrap him in a hug, saying, no matter when, you will always have us. You're not alone. Wu Lingyu glared at the two of them. That faint look was about to freeze all the water in the cave. Don't get angry, don't get angry. But, it was so irksome. I know. Crimson Flame was not scared of Wu Lingyu's gaze, but he still let her go. Although he had never said it, he was truly very lucky. With her accompanying him, he had slowly walked out from his low point of life. When his life force was at its weakest, most powerless state, when he needed help the most, she appeared. Although he took the initiative to form the contract, without her, he would probably really have died by now. In a little dilapidated cave in the Yi-Lin continent, lonely forever. To have you around is really great. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Report chapter comments. Tip, you can use left, right, A. What will you do with the bone remains of your ancestor? Sima Yu pointed at the remains of the archaic vermilion bird that was in the cavity. If it were the bones of another spirit beast, she might even plan to do something with it. After all, it was something useful for refining armaments. However, this was Crimson Flame's ancestor, forget it. I will take it back. It will help me reflect. It might even have a use in the future. Crimson Flame thought about it. He didn't immediately make a decision about those bones. However, he had no intentions to profane it. He might be able to use it in the future. Alright. Sima Yu nodded. It was best for him to make the decision on his own ancestor. Although I am in seclusion, it is not a critical one. If there is any danger, call on me like you always have. Crimson Flame looked at Little Seven, Floey and the others worriedly. They were still not strong enough. Although Wu Lingyu was around, he still worried. Relax, if anything really happens, I will call on you to help. Sima Yu said. That's good then. Sima Yu kept Crimson Flame and the bones of archaic vermilion bird away at the same time. She let out a sigh. She really didn't expect to bump into the archaic vermilion bird here. At this time, there was already no way for them to wonder about who had killed it and how it appeared here. She could only sigh to herself. This world was full of mysteries. Perhaps Crimson Flame, who had obtained his inheritance, would know. Crimson Flame and the archaic vermilion bird disappeared, and the aura in the cave returned to normal. Phew, that scared me, this little child. Little Golden came out from Sima Yu's embrace and shook its shed. Its body had relaxed as well. It received no small amount of shock earlier. If it happened more times, it probably would have been paralyzed. Actually, Crimson Flame's direct contract with her meant that Little Golden probably shouldn't be scared of his mortal enemy, the bird clan. However, the aura of the archaic vermilion bird was too powerful and it was also from the ancient times, so it was completely unable to handle the pressure of the bone-chilling fear. It's fine now. Sima Yu patted Little Golden. It was not the only one, she was afraid that everyone else had been scared by what happened. It was the archaic vermilion bird from the ancient times. Even if one just revered its remains, it was enough to shock one to death. She wanted to continue walking forwards, but her legs were weak. She was completely unable to move. Let's just rest here. Wu Lingyu saw that Yu's expression was not very good and he suggested. Sima Yu glanced at Enlei. She had been scared just now, but it still wasn't bad. Enlei had been given more than a huge shock, though. She nodded, we've entered for such a long time but we haven't gotten to rest. Let's just rest here. Enlei knew that Sima Yu was doing it for her sake, and she smiled gratefully. Then, she sat where she was with her legs crossed and began to nurse her injuries. But it was no wonder she felt so bad. Although she was a lot stronger than Sima Yu had formed a contract with Crimson Flame and was a lot more resistant against the aura of the vermilion bird. As for Little Seven and the others, they had a link to her via contact as well, so the pressure was not that harmful to them. She was the only one. Ever since the archaic vermilion bird's bones disappeared, she had to grit her teeth and bear with its pressure. As a result, her internal organs had all been tossed in disarray and she was filled with burning pain. Take some pills. Sima Yu's voice sounded from above her and an emerald pill appeared in front of her. Young miss? You were definitely injured by the pressure just now, this pill will be able to help you alleviate some of the issues in your body. Sima Yu saw her pale face and said, if you faint here, the journey ahead will be tough. Although Enlei didn't say it, Sima Yu could see her condition at a glance. Her natural healing process would definitely not be as quick as the effects of taking a pill. Enlei didn't reject it either as she took the pill. With a word of thanks, she ate it. She didn't ask Sima Yu what pill it was and didn't suspect the pill at all. She believed that she wouldn't harm her. There was no benefit to harming her anyway. The pills took effect very quickly and her inflamed vital organs began to feel a wave of coldness. She was immediately a lot more comfortable. She rested for a moment then continued to walk forward. They picked up a few oars along the way. There were times where Little Golden would be very excited and, with a wave of its tail, strike the walls and cause a pile to fall and let Little Seven dig them out. There were times where Little Golden would be particularly excited and she would let Little Spirit and the others out as well. There were definitely good things inside here. Enlei followed her, and she was shocked in the beginning, but she started to grow numb to it. On the way there, who knows how many oars Sima Yu had picked up along the way. Even if the probability that they contained something truly precious was low, she would be able to obtain some good items. When she thought up to this point, she recalled Sima Yu's Seeker Spirit Masker ability. The young would truly surpass the old. Roar. Suddenly, there was an enraged roar and this scared Sima Yu and the others. Then, a silhouette hurriedly ran out from the passage in front. It brushed past Sima Yu and the others then disappeared right before their eyes. Sima Yu stuck closely to the wall and her palms were still clammy from the cold sweat. She looked at Wu Lingyu who was beside her and gave her thanks. Just as the spirit beast dashed over, it was Wu Lingyu who used his barrier to protect everyone inside. Only then did the spirit beast fail to detect their scent and not attack them. However, they were still scared by its sudden appearance. Such a thick ancient scent. Enlei muttered, was that an ancient spirit beast? Likely. Sima Yu said, I didn't think that we would really see an ancient spirit beast. Now that we're talking about it, the spirit beasts here have really started to break free. For living these like these, the seal of the spirit stone statues will definitely have a limit. Wu Elingjiu said, once the limit is reached, they will naturally emerge. Why would it coincide so nicely with this time? Sima Yu didn't really understand. Nobody realized it earlier, but now that people had entered, the spirit beasts were due to emerge. Ancient spirit beasts are a lot more powerful than our current spirit beasts. The barrier is weakening. Sima Yu rarely saw Wu Lingyu sigh. She had always thought that he was apathetic to everything. Be careful on the road up ahead. Since there is already an awakened spirit beast, there may be others. Sima Yu instructed Little Seven and the others. We know. Little Golden and the others nodded. They as spirit beasts were a lot more terrified of the ancient spirit beasts than humans like Sima Yu. They walked forward for another half a day, and they were already able to sense the ancient aura pouring in from the front. Could it be that many spirit beasts have already emerged? Sima Yu was shocked. Wu Lingyu held her hand, saying, whether or not they have, we'll know once we go in and see. They carefully made their way inside and passed through the narrow passageways. It started to get even more narrow up ahead. As for Sima Yu and the others, they were stunned when they saw what was inside the cave. Previous chapter. So many. Unlay gulped. She was experiencing no small amount of shock. Sima Yu was feeling unstable as well. She saw the stone statues in the cave and her eyebrows were fiercely furrowed. There were at least a few thousand stone statues here. This also meant that there were thousands of ancient spirit beasts here. If they all went out, that battle ability. Also, this was just the area that her flames could illuminate. She could sense that the area below was empty. They were probably many that had yet to be seen. More than one could count. If they were all to come out. Unlay felt cold sweat dripping down her back. If it were just one or two of them, it would be manageable. If it was only 10 or a few tens of them, using all their strength, taming was a strength as well. However, there were so many and the layers were already beginning to fall. They were going to come out on their own. No matter which power it was, to be faced with so many all of a sudden would be a headache. Sima Yu thought of the people from her Sima clan. They already harmonized completely with their spirit skills. If they were to possess ancient spirit beasts, the Sima clan would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. Although, that seemed a little tough to handle now. However, didn't they not come out yet? As long as they hadn't come out, if she placed them in her spirit pagoda, wouldn't she be able to decide when they could come out? As long as they didn't all emerge at the same time, she had confidence in being able to handle it. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She grabbed Wu Lingyu's hand and asked, Lingyu, can out Beast Tamer art tame ancient spirit beasts? Wu Lingyu saw the light shining from her eyes and knew what she was thinking. He smirked, saying, that should be possible. After all, it was passed down from that time. That's great, then. Sima Yu looked greedily at the stone statues. She patted Little Golden's head, asking, are there any more who haven't come out? Yes. Little Golden knew what Sima Yu was thinking and had plans for these ancient spirit beasts as well. However, if they attack me later on, it will be hard for me to fight at full strength. Then I'll first keep these away. Sima Yu said. She had asked Little Spirit earlier on just now. Little Spirit ascertained that as long as it was around, she would not have to worry even if they woke up. However, they seemed to be fused with the ground and couldn't be moved. She had to pluck them out one by one. Yu, get them all to come out and help. Little Seven looked at all those stone statues and wondered when she would be done if she had to do it all by herself. Alright. Sima Yu thought about it too, you all can come out. All her spirit beasts came out except for Little Roar, that skiving thing, who remained in beast form. The others turned to human form. You guys learn from Little Seven. Get all these guys out. Pay attention, don't spoil the stone statues. Sima Yu instructed them. Alright. Her beasts were all extremely enthusiastic. They initially had no chance to come out, who would have thought that they would be able to come out and play. Sima Yu saw how excited they were and smiled, saying, go ahead. Her beast started from the front and those that they managed to get out were passed to Sima Yu to keep inside the spirit pagoda. Unlay followed alongside Sima Yu and asked, are they all your contracted beasts? That's right. Unlay watched as the people shuttled the stone statues and was so shocked that she went numb. How did she choose such an evildoer to be her master? Mother had told her before not to look down on any single person. I'll go help as well. She had thoroughly submitted to Sima Yu. If she followed a young miss who was sincere and good, her future days might be a lot better. Sima Yu saw Unlay had relaxed a lot and knew that she had now truly decided to follow her and her mouth hooked into a light smile. This way, her future things would be a lot easier to work with. Everyone worked together and those stone statues were very quickly kept away by Sima Yu. Although Unlay was curious about how big Sima Yu's interspatial ring was to be able to keep these items, she did not ask. Little Golden. Yes. Little Golden flung out its long tail and with a few slaps, the stones started to fall from the walls and a few more stones appeared. As for these stones, Little Golden was unable to confirm if there were spirit beasts inside. However, they definitely contained good items. They walked around the cave for many days and finally finished with this place. Little Seven then hit down quite a few more up ahead. Later on, Sima Yu was already numb to seeing all those stones. We aren't going to move every single ore in here, right? We have to do that. Little Seven giggled, it would be best if nobody else could gain from this. Impossible. Sima Yu was more intelligent, the mine is so big, this won't be the only place with it. However, I'm thinking that nobody will have more gains than we do. Thinking about the things back in the spirit pagoda, she couldn't help but smile. She initially came with the idea of coming to learn and see more of the world, but she never expected to go home with such large gains. As long as Wu Lingyu saw how happy she was, everything else was inconsequential to him. Oh right, Elingyu, you gave all these things to me. Wouldn't it be hard for you to give an account to your sage pavilion? After all, he had just entered the inner pavilion and something so big had happened. If he didn't take out a bit of accomplishments, how would those people trust in him? However, to ask her to give these things to the sage pavilion made her feel a little unwilling. Not important. Wu Lingyu stretched forth a hand and petted her head, saying, for the sage pavilion, they have their own people. Even if there is no profit, they wouldn't blame it on me. But those people aren't familiar with you. They might push all the blame to you and say that you weren't with them. Sima Yu said, why don't you do this? Take a few of these stone statues. Wu Lingyu saw how hard it was for her and knew that she didn't want to give it to the sage pavilion. He stretched forth a hand with a smile and pinched her face, saying, all right. Sima Yu casually took a few out and gave it to him. Wu Lingyu didn't reject it and directly kept them away. Her beast swept the entire area and looked for and dug out ores. Once they had pretty much swept the entire place, who knows how many things had already accumulated in her spirit pagoda. It was as if they had dug up the entire mountain. It was a good thing that her beasts all had boundless energy and were extremely efficient. If it were any ordinary person, they would not have been able to work so quickly. Yu, I feel like there isn't anything good left nearby. There are still things here, but I sense that it's not something we can obtain now. Huh. When we entered, that energy that emanated from the group definitely came from nearby. Sima Yu said, however, I'm guessing that we're just going to die if we go, so forget it. Let's look around somewhere else. Thinking about the force coming from the ground, she felt her heartbeat speeding up. Intuition told her that the power, if she managed to obtain it, her strength would grow by an enormous amount. However, this was not the time for her to touch it yet. She wondered if Wu Lingyu would be able to go. It isn't suited for me. Wu Lingyu seemed to have been able to guess her thinking and said. You haven't even seen it, how would you know how suitable it is? Sima Yu asked. Because I know. Wu Lingyu said, I could sense it before that the power is at odds with my spirit energy. Even if we found it, it would be a curse not a blessing. He wasn't someone who coveted power blindly. Alright then. Then let's not bother about this. Let's take a look elsewhere. Sima Yu pulled on his hand. They had already stayed down there for 4 months. In another month, it would be the date that Sima Yu had fixed with Xian Qiuhe. She wondered why he set the meeting date to 6 months later. Could it be that he had no plans to tarry here and find even more treasure? This was a difficult place to enter, so she had to stay a little longer and bring out more things. Otherwise, it might be difficult to come back. She told Wu Lingyu what she thought. The ancient texts say that you cannot stay for more than half a year in the ancient mine. Wu Lingyu said. Why? It's rumored that if you stay in here too long, it will take control over your heart and mind and you will lose yourself. Wu Lingyu explained. As for the cause, the text did not explain. The Xian Qiu clan had been researching the ancient mines, so they were definitely aware of this point. In order not to lose oneself, you cannot stay in there for too long. It seems like there's going to be a few more crazy people. Sima Yu sighed. After half a year, if they were not as lucky as she was, many would not reap as much benefits as she did. Even if they knew that half a year was too short of a time, they would not be able to resist temptation and continue to stay here. It wasn't everyone who would be able to resist temptation. Also, there were many others who were completely unaware of this fact and would unwittingly remain here. Oh, if she met anyone she knew, she should probably let them know. They continued to dig a burrow forwards. As they dug an exit, they continued to see if there were any other opportunities. At the end, they really did dig out a few ores, but Little Golden didn't have much of a reaction to it, so they guessed that the items in there were just average. Using a few days' worth of time, they made their way from underground to the surface. Phew, it's still much more comfortable on the surface. To come up from underground wasn't easy either. If not because you insisted on digging your way out, wouldn't using your spirit energy have been easier? See it but don't expose it, got it? We want to eat good food. What do you want to eat? Meat. Eating meat? That was simple. Sima Yu prepared a pile of meat for everyone. She had roasted meat, barbecued meat, deep-fried meat, stir-fried meat, meat stew, and all the like. Her beasts had contributed much this time, and she had reaped so much benefits. She did not mind preparing food for them. Sima Yu caught Little Roar who was about to steal the meat and place him in front of a pot of soup. She beamed, saying, this is yours. Little Roar looked at the tiny pot and looked at her aggrievedly. What is this? It doesn't have a single piece of meat. It's pigeon soup, very nutritious. It will be useful for your little body. Sima Yu grabbed onto his neck and refused to let him escape. No way. They're all eating big chunks of meat, but mine is so small. I want to be with them. Little Roar protested. You're only suited for eating this. Sima Yu didn't care about his protests. You said earlier that you were very small and couldn't do manual labor. Since you're so small, eating this should be enough for you. Little Roar's eyes were round and huge as he stared at Sima Yu in anguish. She did this on purpose. She made use of the point in his life where he didn't want to live and refused to give him good food to eat. Sob, she was too cruel. Good boy, this is delicious. Sima Yu patted his head. Under her stare, Little Roar could only go and eat the meat after settling this. It was so tiny that he could eat it in a bite. It really tastes quite delicious. When Little Roar swallowed it, he could tell that the taste was really not bad. As such, he very shamelessly drank the entire portion of pigeon soup. Then, he didn't care about Sima Yu's teasing glance as he ran over to snatch for meat with Little Seven and the others. It was the first time that Lei had eaten such delicious meat. Adding on to that the fact that she had become familiar with everyone, she joined the fray to battle for the meat as well. Sima Yu held a plate in her hands and came beside Wu Lingyu, saying, I wonder if Siyu will chase after me and beat me up when she sees me. Wu Lingyu laughed, saying, that's possible. Siyu enjoyed joining the fun but she was tossed away and unable to enter the desert. Once she saw her, based on her character, she would probably chase after her to beat her up. Weren't you the one who caused it? Sima Yu rolled her eyes at him. He was the mastermind, but he actually laughed so, happily. We don't know how others fared in terms of profits. She took out a roasted meat and took a bite. I'll go ask my bees to check out the situation. Wu Lingyu ate his food quietly as Sima Yu wandered around absent-mindedly, inquiring about the situation outside. If he spoke to her now, she definitely wouldn't hear him. Suddenly, she stood up and stopped eating her roast meat. I have news of Master Feng. Feng Zhixing? Yes. There's a group of people arguing and many people are watching. Master is there too. Sima Yu said, I have to go and take a look. If there's a dispute at this time, I'm afraid that it might have to do with the mine. To be able to attract the attention of so many means it's probably a treasure. Wu Lingyu said, who knows, it might end up in a fight. We should go and take a look. Sima Yu nodded. To her beasts who were currently gorging themselves, she said, let's continue eating on the way back. We have to rush. Her beasts very quickly polished everything off and carried the meat as they went on their way. Sima Yu was worried for the safety of Shiman Feng and the others. It was a good thing that her scarlet bees had sent back news saying that they were fine for now. Only then did she relax. Halcyon took everyone and flew in the sky towards the direction that her scarlet bees had told her about. When they were in the sky, they heard sounds of spirit skills clashing. Two people were fighting in the sky as the group of people watched from below. Sima Yu could recognize Feng Zhixing at a glance. Although they had only known each other for a short time, the impression that he had left on her was deep. Feng Zhixing was initially thinking of something when he suddenly felt something. He lifted his head and saw Sima Yu flying over. The cold expression on his face turned into a warm smile. Master. Sima Yu did not wait for Halcyon to land as she flew down from the sky by herself. Feng Zhixing watched Sima Yu land and immediately wanted to stretch forth his hands to hold her. Master, you're really here. Sima Yu looked at Feng Zhixing excitedly. Feng Zhixing still couldn't hold back as he stretched forth a hand to pet her head. He was like a father doting on his child. It had been so many years. He had worked so hard just because he wanted to meet again and help be the shield to block the wind and rain for her. However, based on the intelligence he gathered, this brat was growing at a speed much quicker than his own. Suddenly a sharp gaze landed on his hand and Wu Lingyu landed by Sima Yu's side. Master, I've finally met you again. Initially, I heard that I wouldn't be able to find your sect and was even depressed for a while. Sima Yu looked at Feng Zhixing and recalled their first encounter. Even if you couldn't find me, once this was over, I would have gone to look for you. Feng Zhixing said with a smile. He had heard long ago that Sima Yu had come to the inner region. He had initially planned to come out of seclusion to meet her, but he had just emerged when he encountered the ancient mine. Young master, she is. Someone beside him interrupted the reunion of master and disciple. She is my disciple, Sima Yu. In the future, you will treat her with utmost respect. Feng Zhixing regained his ice-cold manner when he turned to speak with that person. Sima Yu saw Feng Zhixing's change and blinked in disbelief. No matter whether he was teaching her back in the Yi-Lin continent or whether he was protecting her from the surroundings, he always gave her a warm feeling. The version of him that treated her with such affection was also expected. When did Master start to release such an icy aura? What caused him to change? Young Master? Did they mean the young master of the Integral Moon Palace? Initially, she had never heard him mention it. Now that he returned, those people definitely wouldn't attach any importance to him, so how much did he have to put in so that these people would take him as a young master? Master. She looked at Feng Zhixing with some heartache. These are all my people. In the future, if anything happens, just order them about directly and it will be fine. Feng Zhixing said. Is this the young miss that you, young master, have told us about before? A man dressed in white came over and bowed to Sima Yu respectfully, saying, young master has always told us that he has been strengthening himself for the sake of protecting young miss in the future. We didn't think that we would be able to meet you, young miss, so soon. This lowly one is named Feng Xiujia. Feng Xiujia reminded Sima Yu greatly of Feng Kai. It felt very comfortable. However, she didn't know how to address him. It wouldn't be too good to directly address him by name. After all, he was someone who was under her master. After thinking about it, she lightly returned the bow. Yu, there are some things going on right now, so I will introduce them to you once we return. Feng Zhixing said. There were still many people watching them covetously. Although they were not fighting against the Integral Moon Palace, this was not the place for them to hold a long conversation. Sima Yu cast her gaze towards the two who were locked in battle. One of them had short hair and was dressed in black. He was rather aged and he was powerful. The other was dressed in an aqua blue qipao. Although he was being suppressed, he did not seem to be in a particularly difficult position. Also, his face was rather familiar. It seemed like she didn't really know anyone from the inner region, right? Maybe the person just had too common of a face. Oh, that handsome face had actually been relegated to a common face. If this expert knew about it, he might spit out a mouthful of blood. Master, who are these two people? The black-clothed one is an elder from the 16th state's Yang clan. The one in blue is the young master from the 19th state's Su clan. Although Feng Zhixing was not in the inner region for a period of time, he still knew these people. Sima Yuyu's brain overheated as she blurted out, he shouldn't be Su Yu, right? It is him. Do you know him? Feng Zhixing asked. I don't. Sima Yuyu smiled. She finally knew why he felt familiar to her. This person bore a striking resemblance to Su Lunyan. She thought of the time Su Lunyan had said that the two of them were tied by a red string of fate, and she looked at Su Yu not knowing whether she should laugh or cry. Su Lunyan said that he would come to the ancient mines, but she didn't think that she would really bump into him here. The Su clan's power really cannot compare to the Yang clan. Su Yu is being pressured a bit more than he can bear. He's going to lose soon. Feng Zhixing commented. Sima Yuyu could see it too. Su Yu had already been injured by that black-robed man. She thought about how Si Lunyan had told her that, if she met him, to take good care of her nephew. Now that she saw him get injured, she couldn't continue to ignore him. Sigh, although she didn't have the strength to involve herself. Furthermore, the opponents were the Yang clan. One was a clan that she didn't like while the other was one that she could form a good bond with. Master, are your men able to beat up that black-robed man? She asked Feng Zhixing in a small voice. You want to rescue Su Yu? Sima Yuyu nodded. Didn't you say you didn't know him? He is Aunt He's nephew. Before I came where, Aunt He told me about him. She said that if we met, I should help him. Sima Yuyu said, but I'm so weak, how dare I? Do you have a good relationship? Aunt He is a pretty good person. Sima Yuyu smiled a little sheepishly. Feng Zhixing saw the way she was acting. She wanted to rescue him but she wasn't strong enough. She could only ask others for help. No, he believed that she had the strength to save him. It's just that she didn't want to expose herself. He didn't want her to expose herself too early either. Sima Yuyu was a little worried. The black-robed men looked very powerful. Were the men under Master's command able to defeat them? Since you want to save him, then. Feng Zhixing didn't finish speaking when he disappeared from his original position and appeared beside Su Yu. He held the injured Su Yu and continued to fight with the black-robed man. When Sima Yuyu saw Feng Zhixing, she was incredibly surprised. When did Master become so powerful? Did he use some bad methods to increase his strength while she wasn't around? Later, she would have to inspect Master carefully and make sure that he was free from any concealed dangers. Feng Xiujia saw Sima Yuyu furrow her eyebrows and guessed what she was thinking. He thought it was really funny. Was young Master the type that needed to use some improper methods to become stronger? Young miss, you don't have to worry. Young Master, he is very powerful. Feng Xiujia casually mentioned it to her. But Master wasn't this powerful back then. It was very different. Sima Yuyu said. In that past, she hadn't recovered her memories and felt like Feng Zhixing was very powerful. However, when she recovered her strength, she naturally knew what rank Feng Zhixing's power was at. When she compared it to now, it was more than 1 or 2 ranks. Young Master left disheartedly in the past and sealed his inner strength. Feng Xiujia explained, for someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with your father, how weak could he be? Actually, it wasn't Sima Yuyu's fault that she didn't know. When she found Sima Luxian, he had already lost all his spirit energy and everyone told her about how he was very powerful, but nobody told her how powerful he was. Didn't they say that Su Yu was also comparable to his father and the rest? But the difference is really great. She mumbled in a small voice, but the returning Feng Zhixing and Su Yu still managed to hear it. Previous chapter. Su Yu was a renowned genius who stood on the helm with her father and the famous geniuses, that was what Yin Lang clearly mentioned last time. That was why she believed it. But she didn't expect the gap to be so far. Seeing Sima Yuyu's tangled little face, Feng Xiujia's smile deepened. Young Master Su was indeed said to have been similar to the likes of our master along with his peers, but what people meant was about his talent. No matter what, he is so many years younger than Master and the others. Not everyone is as perverse as you. He added that in his heart. Sima Yuyu accepted this statement, anyway, being entangled with such things didn't help in anything. However, she was still a little entangled with regards to her own master's strength in her heart. Feng Zhixing did not take Su Yu back to Su clan but brought him to Integral Moon Palace instead. Su Yu heard Sima Yuyu's mutter, seeing that she was so young, it was embarrassing to talk about such things with a junior. Besides, it is not appropriate to say anything else at this time. Master, are you alright? Sima Yuyu still didn't believe in the strength of Feng Zhixing. Just with that, such little strength can't hurt me. Feng Zhixing looked at the worry in the eyes of his disciple, and his heart was overwhelmed with sweetness. This disciple of his was way more caring than the others. Especially this was her child. Her features were growing more and more like Feng Zhixing. What are you up to? Didn't you say before about not interfering with us, what are you doing now? The Yang clan was injured, and would naturally not give a good face. Sima Yuyu looked at those people. Some of them had been seen when they first entered the grassland, and some had not been seen at the time. Moreover, the few people in charge of the Yang clan were not there. She had a feeling that they weren't up to something good. Faced with the accusations of the Yang clan, Feng Zhixing did not feel guilty of breaking his words. He looked at them and said, I didn't want to care about your affairs before, but my dear disciple said that she wanted to save the Su family's young master. Of course it's only natural for me to intervene. Su Yu was a little surprised. Was this little girl the one who saved him? So, is Integral Moon Palace reneging on their words now? Since when did Integral Moon Palace renege on their words? Feng Zhixing sneered at the accusation, looking every bit full of confidence and natural. The corners of Sima Yu's mouth twitched. When did her master turn into a rascal? If she wasn't sure that the person in front of her was Feng Zhixing, she would suspect that she had recognized the wrong person. Perhaps, this was the nature of her master. How could he not have a trace of arrogance in it? He came from the Yi-Lin continent. He must have been so stifled there that he became so depressed and oppressive. This was all because of her mother. Feng Xiujia has been observing Sima Yu and seeing the distress in her eyes. He said that the young patriarch's thoughts over the years have not been in vain. The young patriarch left the inner region because of Yu Keluo and no longer managed the affairs of the sect. Later, he came back because of Yu Keluo's daughter. It was not unsurprising for his former subordinates. However, facing the young patriarch at this time, it was much better than the depressed him from before. The hard work that the young patriarch made after coming back this time made them all feel distressed. Fortunately, Sima Yu really cared about him and was worthy of all that he had sacrificed. Sima Yu and Feng Xiujia had different thoughts at this point of time. Not to mention, Su Yu's heart was also not calm at this very moment. Before, Feng Zhixing was obviously only watching the battle with the mentality of watching a show, and he did not expect that everything would change because of a few words of his disciple. It seems that this disciple has a lot of weight in his heart. It's just that, he doesn't seem to know her. Why should she help him? It was the same. Does she also have her thoughts on that thing? The Yang clan was choked back by Feng Zhixing's words and their expressions were extremely dark, but they were helpless. As for the other forces who watched the battle, their gazes looked different when they looked at Su Yu. Usually, the hidden families and the large family clans do not provoke each other, but once it involves interests, it was different. However, Integral Moon Palace was different. No one could tell the forces behind it, and no one dared to provoke it casually. Feng Zhixing brought Su Yu to Integral Moon Palace. Isn't it just to protect him? This was more than just the degree of intervention. Young Master Feng, are you sure you want to be an enemy of everyone for this? Someone tried to provoke Integral Moon Palace to irk the hostility of all the forces. I'm just saving a person, and I didn't say to grab that thing. If you want, feel free to do it. Feng Zhixing said, and then solemnly added, this time I really mean what I say. Say. Although he said so, other people did not dare to act. Sima Yu blinked a little curiously, and looked at Wu Lingyu subconsciously. Do you know anything? Wu Lingyu shook his head. How could he know what happened before when he came with her? Sima Yu sighed. The Scarlet Bee arrived too late and only saw the battle, but didn't know what happened before. The Su family found a primordial spirit beast that had come out of the ore, but it was discovered by the Yang clan. They then said that the primordial spirit beast was discovered by them first. Feng Xiujia's voice came and explained. The cause of the incident also let her know why so many people were watching here. If the Yang clan and the Su family argue, no one knows the final result. Maybe you can pick something up. Sima Yu looked toward Su's house, and she saw a small spirit beast curled up on the ground. She was obviously frightened. Such a small spirit beast was a bit like a newly born one. As long as it is taken back, it will definitely be cultivated in the future. It's no wonder that those people have all gathered around here to snatch it. Sima Yu curled her lips, just like that for an ancient spirit beast. If you know the treasures in the spirit pagoda, don't you know what expressions these people will have? She was very happy when she thought of Feng Zhixing intervening simply because of her own words, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. A sour smell of jealousy came from her side. Sima Yu turned her head to look at Wu Lingyu's dark face, and quickly flashed a mischievous smile and grabbed his hand. How can the master's love and his feelings for himself be the same? Such a stingy man. Seeing her playful eyes, Wu Lingyu stretched out her hand and squeezed her nose. Feng Zhixing saw the interaction between the two, and said in his heart, they were right. The female college will not stay. But until he found Keluo, that guy wouldn't marry Yu out. Hearing the sigh of Feng Zhixing, Sima Yu asked curiously, Master, are you not tempted by that spirit beast? I looked at it and found it cute and silly and I wanted to grab it and give it to you as a gift. Since you said you want to help this kid, and you didn't like that kid much, I will go. What are you going to join? Feng Zhixing said lightly. Those that had gathered here, about 10% of them were moved by the spirit beast, but she didn't expect that her master would actually join in to use it as a pet for her. Feng Zhixing looked at Sima Yu dotingly. His intentions to come back was to settle down in advance so that when she came to the inner region, she could also have a backing to rely on. Now, he has completed a small part. Although Integral Moon Palace didn't have the intention to snatch the primordial spirit beast, it also muddled into the murky waters of this matter. If the Su family refuses to give up the primordial spirit beast, it would most probably conflict with these people. Of course, if Integral Moon Palace was strong enough, those people will have to weigh it. Young Master. The Su family recognized the situation and hurried over holding the primordial spirit beast. Seeing the primordial spirit beast, many people were moved. But they would have to face Integral Moon Palace, don't know if they have the courage. Today, Integral Moon Palace will cover the Su family. If you want to come and learn about my Integral Moon Palace's strength, you are welcome to come and try. Feng Zhixing glanced at those people before turning around to leave. Feng Zhixing, don't be too arrogant. Some people were swayed by greed and they attacked Feng Zhixing. More than a dozen people. In a flash, Feng Xiujia's figure moved and the next moment, the sounds of blades clanging followed by loud thuds of bodies falling to the ground. More than a dozen people were solved by the people of Integral Moon Palace in an instant, and there were no complete corpses left intact. It has always been known that Integral Moon Palace was very mysterious, but they had never met them. Today, they had experienced it firsthand. With such an experience, their courage had naturally been weakened. Yu, let's go. Regardless of the reactions of those people, Feng Zhixing didn't seem to see the cruelty of his subordinates and said to Sima Yu with a smile. All right. It wasn't as if Sima Yu had never seen a massacre. This kind of scene was scary to others, but she felt very warm. Master did this all for her. So you thought that Yu's name sounded a bit familiar. Did they really know each other? After they left, there was no longer anyone who wanted to impede them, hence He soon left everyone else in the dust. Suyu brought his clansmen to Feng Zhixing, bowed with cupped hands and said, "Thank you, Master Feng, for your help." Feng Zhixing glanced at him. "You should thank Yu. I wouldn't do anything if not for her request." Suyu turned and saluted Sima Yu. "Thank you, young Miss Yu for your life-saving grace today, and I will definitely return it in the future." "No need. I've only been entrusted by someone. Besides, it is indeed my master who saved you." Sima Yu waved her hand. Entrusted by someone? Suyu didn't know who she was referring to. "We went to Cord City before and he mentioned that you will be coming here as well. If we were to meet, she mentioned to take care of each other." Sima Yu meant it very clearly. If it weren't for Aunt He, she wouldn't make a move. Little Aunt? Suyu immediately understood when she mentioned Aunt He from Cord City, and finally remembered why the name, Yu, sounded so familiar. Aunt He had mentioned this several times before, and also said that she wanted to introduce him to Sima Yu and be a matchmaker. But he didn't take this to heart. He didn't expect to meet Sima Yu here. Sima Yu nodded and asked, "I don't know how long you have been here. Are there any gains?" "It's been more than 5 months, except for this primordial spirit beast, there is little gain." Suyu said. "Do you know of the half-year period?" "I've heard of it, so we were planning on leaving, but I didn't expect to meet this little one before leaving, which would lead to the following things." Suyu said. "I'm afraid many people already know about this. Be careful on the way back." Sima Yu said. It was an obvious remark that she was chasing him away. Suyu was not an ignorant person. Besides, being with them was not completely safe. Who knows when they might change their minds. So it was better to leave. If there is a need in the future, Suyu will come forward. Goodbye. Suyu gave Feng Zhixing and Sima Yu a slight bow, and left with the Su family. "I thought you would take him along," Feng Zhixing said. "I was because of Aunt He that I interceded to save him. If we were let them follow, wouldn't it cause trouble for Master? Those people may come over and rob them again." Sima Yu and the Su clan weren't very familiar. More importantly, she was more concerned about the safety of Feng Zhixing. As for the road behind, they could only walk on their own. Feng Zhixing was very happy that Sima Yu ranked him above and the coldness he exuded disappeared. "By the way, how long have you been here, Master?" "It's been about 4 months plus, there's still a month plus before the half-year period." Feng Zhixing said, "How about you?" "It's about the same for us as well. So we came here at about the same time, why didn't we meet?" "How is it, have you gained anything?" "There are some gains." In front of so many people, she didn't say anything specifically, but Feng Zhixing saw her cheerful expression and knew that she must have more than just some. "For the rest of the journey, it's better to follow us because it's getting more chaotic now." "More chaotic?" "Well, so far many people have gained and those who have not gained, would naturally target others. After all, it is easier to grab than to find." Feng Zhixing sighed. Sima Yu immediately understood, it was similar to the situation which the Su family had just encountered. Furthermore, some people have been here for a long time, more than half a year. An alarm rang in her heart. After more than half a year, their minds would begin to be affected. If they were to go lose their minds and go crazy, it was naturally more insecure here. Thinking of this, Feng Zhixing frowned. "Why did you two come here? How did you take care of Yu?" It was Wu Lingyu that he blamed so naturally. There were just the few of them, what if something happened? Sima Yu grabbed Wu Lingyu's hand and said with a smile, "Lingyu is very powerful, see? Nothing happened to me. You only know how to protect him." Wind Zhixing lamented after seeing her protectiveness. As for Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu, he had been paying attention to her, naturally knew of their special relationship. Even the Sima family recognized it, what else could he say? "You only need to have that ability." He hummed, looking at Wu Lingyu, wondering if he should be tested. Wu Lingyu didn't care about Feng Zhixing's gaze, even the elders of the Sima family had been handled well, let alone her master. "Master, where are we going now?" Sima Yu asked. "I heard that there was a mine ahead. We can go have a look and join in the fun," Feng Zhixing said. "Is it very big?" Sima Yu became interested. Join in the fun, she likes this the most. "I heard that there are many primordial spirit beasts. The Su family came from that direction," Feng Zhixing said. Sima Yu's eyes brightened, and she urged, "Master, let's go over now." Feng Zhixing took her to the direction of the mine. Sima Yu found that this direction was completely opposite to the direction she had swept before. After a few days on the road, Sima Yu was chatting to Feng Zhi along the way, and Feng Zhixing selected some good things to tell her. The people behind thus became affirmed of Sima Yu's position in his heart. When rushing to the mine, Sima Yu met some acquaintances, such as people from the Eastern clan, as well as Yang Shi's grandfather, Yang Wei, father Yang, Gao Ming, and mother, Wei Shuizhu. It's no wonder that I only saw the elders of the Yang clan before, and I didn't see the master of the house, so they all came here. She looked around, but she didn't see the Xianqiu clan, and she didn't know if they were here. Eastern Li discovered Sima Yu when she appeared, and when she saw that she was still alive, her eyes darkened. Young miss, it's Sima Yu and Enlei. Shui'er saw them and exclaimed, why are they still not dead? It seems that I underestimated her before. Eastern Li said faintly, to be able to remove the imprints I left behind, she seems quite capable. Soon after separating, Eastern Li wanted to trace Sima Yu's whereabouts through the imprint, only to find that the imprint on Enlei's body was gone. That Wu Lingyu must have done it. His strength is relatively high, what can that Sima Yu's strength be counted as? No one believed that this was done by Sima Yu. Eastern Li saw her talking and laughing with Feng Zhixing, and snorted coldly, I didn't expect them to hook up with people from Integral Moon Palace. She had seen Integral Moon Palace's young master Feng Zhixing several times before. He was a cold and indifferent person and had never put anyone in his eyes, even if they were women with similar powerful backgrounds like herself. It was said that for the princess of the Ghost Clan, he had once left the inner region with a broken heart, but no one knew the reason for his return. I've never heard of him being with a woman, let alone talking or laughing, and I don't know what kind of charm Sima Yu used to confuse him. Doesn't Wu Lingyu like her very much? He can actually tolerate her hooking up with other men? Shui'er followed Eastern Li everywhere, naturally knowing about Feng Zhixing. Seeing Sima Yu talking and laughing with him, she found it an eyesore. This is their own matter. It has nothing to do with us. Eastern Li had no intention of paying attention to Sima Yu now. She had placed all her attention to the ore veins in front of her. Young miss, young master Xianqiu, what did he say? Shui'er asked. She became more depressed when she mentioned Xianqiu He. After learning about the ore veins here, she contacted Xianqiu He and asked him to let the two clans travel along together, but Xianqiu He rejected her directly, saying that each of them had their own opportunities, so it's not good to grab the opportunity from her. She wanted to curse in her heart at that time. All that nonsensical talk about opportunities, he just didn't want to travel with her. Shui'er saw Eastern Li's expression and guessed it, and whispered, maybe Master Xianqiu also discovered something. Initially, I thought that there would be more and more people coming here, hence if the two family clans are together, we can take care of each other. Eastern Li put away her sadness and said, forget it, let's go in. She just saw that Northern Du Hao bringing people from Northern Du family in, and if she was delayed outside, she was afraid that they would be the first to get their hands on the opportunities within. Sima Yu thought that Eastern Li would come over and provoke her, but she didn't expect that she would enter the mine straight away. It seems that there is still a certain difference between those women who have no brains in her, at least she could still distinguish what was more important. Feng Zhixing glanced over there and asked faintly, do you know someone from the hidden family? I know, but I'm not familiar. Why them? Sima Yu didn't want to say more. Anyway, Eastern Li wouldn't do anything here. She doesn't seem to like you. Feng Zhixing said, a lot of women don't like someone as smart, cute and beautiful as me, Sima Yu said confidently. PFFFFFT. Feng Xiujia and others laughed. The young patriarch's disciple was really narcissistic. Feng Zhixing looked at her, then looked at Wu Lingyu, who was too enchanting, and nodded, indeed. Young patriarch, shall we go in? Although Integral Moon Palace also had some gains, but if there were treasures before them, who would complain about gaining more? Even Sima Yu, who had obtained so much, she too was very interested in this mine. It's better to check what's inside before making a decision. Feng Zhixing was not overwhelmed by the mine, so he remained cautious. He also has a certain understanding of these mines and knows the danger, so he was not intending to rush blindly into it. Master, it's better to let the bees to scout first. All right. Feng Zhixing knows about the scarlet bees, but his subordinates did not. Seeing her call out so many bees at once, they were still a little skeptical. Young miss, can these bees really scout? Of course. I often ask them to help me scout out situations. Knowing that master is here, all the credits must go to them because they were the ones who told me so. Sima Yu said. This is the scarlet bee you've been yearning for a long time. Feng Zhixing said. What? Everyone was stunned, looking at the scarlet bees flying away, and thinking that she actually used scarlet bees to scout. Suddenly there was a feeling of her being prodigal. Why, do you all want a scarlet bee? Sima Yu asked. We heard that scarlet bees appeared recently, so we wanted to find a little bit to produce honey. The effect of scarlet bees' honey is indeed better than normal. Sima Yu took out dozens of bottles, stuffed them into their hands, and said, these are for you. Later when we are going to separate, I will give you some scarlet bees. Young miss, how can we ask for such a thing? They know that some hidden clans cultivated scarlet bees, and scarlet honey occasionally flows out into the market, but they have never seen so much scarlet honey. Sima Yu waved her hand carelessly and said, I have a lot of these things, and I have accumulated a lot over the years. In the Spirit Pagoda, time passed quickly, and the breeding of the scarlet bees was also very fast. In addition to the scarlet queen bee, many little queen bees have also evolved. These little queen bees just lay eggs whenever they have nothing better to do, so she now has an overwhelming number of scarlet bees. If it wasn't for the spirit pagoda to be big enough, she would have to suppress the growth of the scarlet bees. Since there were more scarlet bees, this meant more flowers in the spirit pagoda. This scarlet honey had been piled up and they couldn't finish eating it. She was telling the truth, but Feng Xiujia and the others did not think so. No matter how much she has, how much more can it be? It must have been saved for herself. Since you gave it to you, please accept it. Feng Zhixing didn't say any polite words, knowing that they liked this very much. As soon as he said that, they all put it away with a smile, and decided in their hearts to treat this generous lady better. After a short while, the scarlet bees sent a message back, and Sima Yu looked at Feng Zhixing with some embarrassment after hearing this. Master, I want to go in first. Sima Yu said. What happened? That. Sima Yu wanted to make up a reason, but seeing Feng Zhixing staring at her, she said embarrassedly, I have a friend who has encountered something. If I don't know it, it's fine, but since I found out, I just can't leave it be. Previous chapter. Sima Yu saw that Feng Zhixing's eyes were filled with displeasure and felt a little afraid. Do you plan to head in on your own? He asked. The ones they are against are the hidden families. I don't want Master to step in for my sake and end up offending those hidden families. Furthermore, the Northern Dew clan will definitely take revenge. If they throw the blame to Master or the Integral Moon Palace, I'll be even more guilty. Sima Yu said honestly. Feng Zhixing glared at her head then finally sighed, saying, for this, you and your father are very alike. I am born of my father, of course we are the same. Sima Yu raised her head and blinked. Did this mean that Master wasn't angry? Are you very close with that person? Feng Zhixing asked. It's still alright. He was the first friend that I made in the inner regions. He still owes me. If he dies now, it would be such a wasted death. Sima Yu said. If you die for his sake, that would be even more of a waste. Feng Zhixing poked her forehead. In the past, I knew that you were always good to Bei Gong Tang and the others. You haven't changed at all. My character can't be changed. Sima Yu rubbed her nose. And I don't hope that you do. If you changed, you wouldn't be you. Let's go. Feng Zhixing huffed. Master, you all don't have to come. Just Ling Yu and myself will do. Sima Yu didn't want to let the Northern Dew clan see Master. If you go, will they not recognize you? Wu Ling Yu and I will first disguise ourselves. Sima Yu said, nobody will be able to recognize us. That won't do either. Feng Zhixing was worried, you need to stay with me. Why don't we do this? You guys stay far away. If we can't deal with them, you can all come over. Sima Yu looked at him anxiously. Feng Zhixing knew that she didn't want to bring him trouble. Although it really was a little troublesome to deal with a hidden family, it wasn't like he didn't dare. However, seeing the pleading look in her eyes, he still agreed. To be able to be protected by her made him happy as well. Sima Yu called out Thousand Resonance. After fusing with him, she had a different appearance. Wu Lingyu changed his appearance as well. The both of them had different auras now. If they were not right in front of Feng Zhixing and the others, they wouldn't believe that they were the same people. Master, I'll even lay in your care. Sima Yu said. All right. The group of them walked to the cave, one in front of the other. This was different from the cave that Sima Yu had gone in before. There were no forks in the road there at all, but this was a mine. The moment they entered, they only walked for a short while before they saw a fork in the road. Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu chose a direction based on what the scarlet bees told her. Feng Zhixing and the others chose along with them. After walking for a short while, it was another fork in the road. If not for the leading of the scarlet bees, wanting to find Yin Lang and the others would really have been difficult. Because she was worried about Yin Lang and the others, Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu walked rather quickly. Feng Zhixing and the others had to tail them tightly in order not to lose them. It was a good thing that, once they were inside, there were fewer forks in the road. They only then managed to increase the distance between them. With Wu Lingyu around, the aura over both of them had been suppressed. Those around them wouldn't notice it at all. Yin Lang, I want to see how long you can hold on. Northern Duhao's voice was as arrogant as before, as if he had very deep enmity with Yin Lang. Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu looked at each other. It seemed like the fight did not occur simply because of the opportunities this time. Wu Lingyu used his mouth to point and furrowed his eyebrows. She made him come and rescue his rival in love, making his heart feel constricted. Sima Yu understood what he meant and used her eyes to question, don't you want to rescue him so that you can ruin him psychologically? Northern Duhao, I didn't think that you would actually give up the mines to act against me. You're the same as you were that year. Yin Lang's voice was a little weak, and one could tell that he had already been through some hardship. The Northern Du and Yin clans were in an empty cave. It was a dead end up ahead and the Yin clan was trapped here. As for Sima Yu and the others, they were in the passageway. It was curved, and though they were near, they couldn't see what was happening inside. Sima Yu was a little worried about Yin Lang's condition. However, she couldn't get too close. Although he had pestered her before, no matter what, he was the first friend she had made after coming into the inner regions. Apart from family, she had a pretty good relationship with him. The other party wasn't weak, so they couldn't use their divine senses to check their surroundings just in case they alerted the enemy. However, without knowing the situation inside, they didn't know how many Northern Du clansmen there were, and she wasn't able to form the next step of her plan. Wu Lingyu held onto her hand and the energy from his palms helped her calm down. She smiled at him, telling him that she was okay now. Wu Lingyu shook his head helplessly. With a wave of his hand, a picture of what was currently happening inside the cave was shown on the stone walls. Sima Yu looked at the stone wall with large round eyes, wondering how this guy managed to do that. Although there was only the picture on the combined with what she could hear, she could understand clearly what was happening inside. The cave that they were in was very similar to the one that they had looted. It was just that there were no stone statues here, only the Northern Du clan and the Yin clan. Yinlan seemed to be using a protection array to protect the Yin clansmen. However, this also trapped them inside, making it impossible to escape. More than 100 people from the Northern Du clan surrounded them, making it so they didn't have a single change to escape, and that protection array was already beginning to weaken. What do you plan to do? Wu Lingyu looked at her. Sima Yu could already feel like his voice was appearing inside her head. Use poison. Sima Yu mouthed these two words. Wu Lingyu raised his eyebrows. These people were not weak. If she wanted to poison that, it wouldn't be an easy feat. Sima Yu saw the apprehension in his eyes and smiled confidently. She mouthed, you'll see. Word to Feng Zhixing and the others via Flowey, getting them to retreat. Then, she led Wu Lingyu into the spirit pagoda. Feng Zhixing and the others were worried for Sima Yu's safety, but Flowey led them away. Yu said that she'll be fine, so she'll definitely be fine. If you stay behind, you will definitely ruin things. Feng Zhixing was very worried, but Flowey was her contracted beast, so he couldn't use force and could only let her drag him away. Since even he had left, Feng Xiujia and the others naturally left with him. Sima Yu, who was in the spirit pagoda, knew that Feng Zhixing had been dragged away by Flowey, so she started the next step without worry. What do you plan to do? He doesn't have much more time. Wu Lingyu's tone was rather sour. Sima Yu lifted up both hands and punched Wu Lingyu's cheeks, saying, watch me. She took out an ancient text, which was the one that Master Shi Qianji had given her back then. As long as she had the necessary ingredients, there were some poisons in there that would even make Wu Lingyu poisoned for a few breaths. What more for these people? It was just that she had never made it before, so she needed a bit of time to refine it. In any case, the things she never lacked in the spirit pagoda were pill ingredients and time. Previous chapter. By the time Sima Yu had finished researching the poison, half a day had already gone by. She and Wu Lingyu arrived outside and placed the poison along the tunnels. Then, they used a bout of wind to blow the poison inside. Who is it? Those inside the cave sensed something different and some people immediately ran over to the tunnel to check. However, nobody appeared. Young master, there is nobody there. Are you sure? Northern Duhao had clearly sensed some spirit energy fluctuations. How could there be nobody there? We were very quick. There was really nobody there. The guard replied. Stand guard outside. Northern Duhao was worried and instructed. A few of them left the cave and kept on walking for a long while, but they didn't see a single person. They felt like Northern Duhao was too careful. The Yin clansmen's eyes dimmed with disappointment. They initially thought that someone had come to rescue them. Northern Duhao caught the change in their moods and smirked. What, did you think that someone had come to save you? Northern Duhao, you won't get away with this. Yin Su watched him with eyes filled with hatred. Yin Su, once I get rid of your young uncle, I'll entertain you. Such a beautiful lady, it wouldn't be bad for us to bring you back and use you as our cultivation furnace. Pa, even if I die, I'll never become your cultivation furnace. Yin Su had decided in her heart that, if they breached their defenses before they got rescued, she would willingly self-detonate rather than fall into their devious hands. Cultivation furnace? Inside the spirit pagoda, Sima Yu was listening to their conversation as she lightly furrowed her eyebrows. Not all the hidden families are upright. Wu Lingyu said, it's just that for some reasons, they're not known. Wu Lingyu said. Could it be that the reason why the Northern Du clan is a bit more powerful than the other clans is because of these evil methods? Sima Yu rubbed her hands where goosebumps had risen. The Northern Du clan's name is truly not great within the hidden families. Wu Lingyu did not pay too much attention to the Northern Du clan before either. After finding out about this, he didn't bother about it. As a female, this kind of scum deserves to have his little brother cut off directly. Sima Yu huffed, it's just a pity that I won't have this chance today. Don't you plan to get rid of them? Wu Lingyu teased good-naturedly. To get rid of them without letting my identity be revealed is not too possible. Sima Yu said, the effectiveness of the poison is not very long. You won't look for me? Wu Lingyu was a little upset that Sima Yu had neglected him. Aren't you by my side now? Sima Yu glared at him, I don't want you to do something that you don't want to do. Wu Lingyu didn't like that there were guys by her side. She knew that at least. If it can make him owe me one, then it's possible. Wu Lingyu said. Sima Yu rolled her eye at him, saying, get useful. Inside the cave, everyone could suddenly feel something peculiar inside them. They felt like they couldn't really move. What was going on? Bang dash. Bang dash. Those from the Northern Du clan fell to the ground. Those who were a little stronger were still holding on, but before long, they couldn't move either. Sima Yu led Wu Lingyu out, and this time, they didn't conceal their aura. Who is there? It seemed like someone noticed them immediately. Sima Yu and Wu Lingyu held hands as they went out. Seeing the two strangers, the eyes of the Northern Du and Yin clansmen were filled with puzzlement. Who were these two people? Who are you guys? Sima Yu ignored the Northern Du clansman as she walked in front of the array, saying, there's no time, disperse your array. Who are you? Yin Lang looked at Sima Yu and felt like her eyes were familiar, but he had no impression of her. Sia Yu took out a nameplate, flashed it, then kept it away and said, I can't drag it on for too long. Yin Lang immediately recognized that the nameplate belonged to Sima Yu. Could it be that Sima Yu had sent men to rescue him? To believe or not to believe? He glanced at Northern Du Hao, then decided in his heart. He used whatever remained of his energy to disperse the array. Sima Yu walked in and gave everyone the antidote. The antidote worked upon eating it, so although they felt like their mouths were smelly, they could move. Let's go. Yin Lang got up and supported Yin Su as he instructed his Yin clansmen. When they passed by Northern Du Hao, Yin Lang seemed to hesitate for a moment. However, his intelligence seemed to tell him to control his anger as he led his men away. They had energy now, but they hadn't recovered their spiritual energy. Northern Du Hao was the young master of the Northern Du clan. There was no way he didn't have something that would preserve his life. If they really killed him here and the others were not under the effects of the drug anymore, it might end up causing even more trouble. It might even render them unable to escape. The others naturally understood this as well, so they didn't let this distract them and they left seething with hatred. If I were you, after the poison dissipates, I wouldn't use my spirit energy rashly. Sima Yu kindly reminded them. Shortly after they left, the Northern Du clansmen could move again. Then, many more of them crawled up from the ground. Northern Du Hao tested it out. His spirit energy still couldn't be fully utilized. If other attacked them right now, even for him, it wouldn't turn out great. Interesting, they were actually able to poison us. Northern Du Hao recalled Sima Yu's disdainful gaze. It had always been him to disdain others, but a woman actually dared to look down on him now. Young master, are we going to give chase? Someone asked. No need, everyone stay where you are to rest. Northern Du Hao said, it was such a good opportunity to kill off Yin Lang. It's really a pity. However, if I could plot against you once, I can plot against you again. Yin Lang, do you think that you'll really be able to run from me? After we leave, look into those two people. Especially that woman. Yes, young master. Sima Yu led the Yin clansmen out from the cave and randomly entered some unknown path. Rest for a bit. I don't think the Northern Du clansmen will chase after us. Sima Yu sighed. It was only now that the Yin clansmen dared to relax and sit down to recover. Yin Lang looked at Sima Yu and asked, what is your relationship with her? Why do you have her item? Sima Yu didn't waste any words. She broke off her fusion with 1000 resonance and returned to her usual appearance. Yu? Yin Lang looked at Sima Yu with surprise. Wu Lingyu recovered his original appearance as well and Yin Lang said that it was no wonder. Yin Su looked at Sima Yu and her first reaction was that of surprise, then the turn to look at Yin Lang. She remembered that the two of them had held hands as they entered. Then, didn't that mean that the male and Yu were? How did you know that we were here? Yin Lang asked. The topic was changed rather forcefully. I got my scarlet bees to scout for some information, and happened to find out the conflict you were having with the Northern Du clan. Sima Yu said. Thank you, both. If not for the two of you, I fear we would not have been able to escape today. Yin Lang bowed to the both of them. How did you guys end up fighting the Northern Du clan? Northern Du Hao seems to hate you a lot. Sima Yu asked rather curiously. Of course he hates me. I once ruined something good of his, and even let the people know how nefarious the Northern Du clan is and tarnished their name. Yin Lang shrugged, looking disdainful of him instead of feeling any fear from being trapped by the Northern Du clan. In the past when Yin Lang was wandering around outside, he had bumped into Northern Du Hao forcefully snatching a girl. He had rescued the girl, then let everyone know about how the Northern Du clan was using women as cultivation furnaces. Although this news wasn't wantonly spread, the hidden families had found out about it and their already bad relationships with the Northern Du clan had become even worse. Although they were one of the more powerful clans, they were held in contempt. The one who released the news was now their target, and Yin Lang had naturally become the target of their hatred. If it was not because of the fame of the 14th prefecture and his strength, the Yin clan would probably have been extinguished. They were usually helpless against them, so now that they had encountered each other here, how could Northern Du Hao let this opportunity go? It was just that Sima Yu had foiled his plan. Yu. Feng Zhixing led his men over and the Yin clan immediately grew wary. They had yet to recover. If the ones who came did not bear good intentions, Sima Yu made an action of telling them to calm down, then went to the cave and called out, "Master." Feng Zhixing entered, and saw that Sima Yu was not injured. Only then did his anxious heart calm down. "Did you manage to rescue them?" However, I didn't have time to kill them." When the Yin clansmen heard this, they couldn't help but purse their lips. She was already quite amazing to be able to rescue them from the clutches of the Northern Du clan, but she was actually regretful about being unable to kill the Northern Du clansmen. Those people actually wanted to use women as cultivation furnaces. Sima Yu absolutely abhorred those types of people. Leaving them on the earth was a threat to womankind. It's fine as long as you are fine. Feng Zhixing didn't care about the Northern Du clan. He only cared for the safety of Sima Yu. "Master, let me introduce you. This is Yin Lang, and this is Yin Su Su." Sima Yu only knew the both of them anyway. "This is my master." Yin Lang bowed towards Feng Zhixing, saying, "I didn't think that the young patriarch of the Integral Moon Palace would be Yu's master. Nice to meet you. Even if you didn't want to stay in Tangerine City, you shouldn't have bothered my disciple." Feng Zhixing had long since known about Yin Lang tailing Sima Yu and warned him with an uncaring tone. He. Yin Lang chuckled. This guy was really like a protective mother hen. Sima Yu didn't think that Feng Zhixing would be so direct. However, she also knew that her master would definitely know about things that involved her. "Master, do you want to continue forward?" She held on to Feng Zhixing's arm and asked. "Since I've already come, how could I not join the fun?" Feng Zhixing asked. Who knows, he might be able to find some treasure and give Sima Yu a present. He glanced at the Yin clansman and his meaning was obvious. Did she want to take these guys with them? Sima Yu glanced at Yin Su Su and the others. Every single one of them had suffered harsh injuries under the Northern Du clan. If she left them here, they might even be killed by someone else. Yin Lang and the others knew that the Integral Moon Palace was not a kind-hearted power and didn't want to force Sima Yu, so he said, "We have already asked our clan for help. They just have to find us, but we don't know when they'll be able to arrive. It will be better for you guys to come with me. Once we find them, we'll talk again." "Little uncle, Yu is right. The clansmen have not come after so long, and we don't know whether or not they've been entangled in something. We're injured as well. If we encounter any enemies, that would be troublesome." Yin Su Su said. Yin Lang hesitated for a moment. When Sima Yu had mentioned it, Feng Zhixing did not reject the idea, which probably meant that he agreed. "Then I'll have to trouble you guys." Yin Lang bowed towards her and Feng Zhixing. "Let's go, then." Feng Zhixing's subordinates were quietly muttering about how their master was too giving to the young Mississippi. One had to know that taking the Yin clansmen with them would make it very inconvenient to do a lot of things. However, as long as the young miss suggested it, he would have no thoughts of rejecting it. He indulged her so much. Did he think he was her father or something like that? The Scarlet Bees had long since headed inside the cave. With their direction, the group did not have to take many curved roads and could head directly inside the mine. On the road there, Little Golden once again displayed its usefulness in finding ancient objects. From time to time, it would discover some ores hidden in the walls. Sima Yu handed the ores she obtained to Feng Zhixing and beamed, "Master, this is what your disciple honors you with. Since it is a gift given to honor me as your master, I will accept it." He kept the ore and did not bother about whether or not there were treasures inside. When the Yin clansmen saw how easily she obtained the ores, they were incredibly envious. If they had a spirit beast that was as good as Little Golden, they would have been able to gain a lot of profits as well. Sima Yu also gave a few of the ores she obtained to the Yin clan. Since everyone was together, although she didn't distribute it evenly, she could still give them some for being around. In the beginning, they felt a little embarrassed about receiving it. However, when they saw how Little Golden would find many over and over again, they did not stand on ceremony either. If they were really able to obtain something good from it, they would definitely give their thanks to her. Even if there was nothing good inside, they would also have a good relationship with the Sima clan in the future. This was different from the average mines. Because they had found these ores halfway here, when they reached the area with the most number of ores, the area was filled with people. Eastern Lai clan, Northern Du clan, Yang clan and the Xian Qiu clan that they didn't see earlier. There were also other powers that they didn't recognize. They were all gathered on the edges of the huge mine. All around them, mountains that were so tall that they reached the clouds surrounded the area. In the heart of the abyss, there were many stone statues standing around. When the people around them saw the ores inside, their eyes turned red. These ores were in the shape of animals, so didn't that mean that the items inside were genuine ancient beasts? If they could obtain them, wouldn't they have greatly profited? Seems like there's no advantage in arriving here first. Feng Xiujia saw everyone standing outside and chuckled when they weren't heading inside to loot the ores. There's a barrier around it, locking everyone outside. I'm guessing that they have definitely tried but they couldn't open the barrier. Sima Yu glanced at the mess scattered about everywhere. At a glance, she could see that it was a result of all the attacks that had been reflected. At this moment, the powers were gathered in 2s and 3s. It was as if they were deciding how to deal with this issue before. However, there were some people who were just born without having to worry about these things. Like Sima Yu or Xian Qiuhe. They just happened to naturally not have to be one of those who had these worries. However, she didn't go in immediately either. In the beginning, when they first saw the barrier, they didn't think too much about it. It was only when they saw all the attacks of others getting repelled that they began to take it seriously. For example, Eastern Lai Li. After failing a few times, just as her hatred for the barrier had reached its peak, she saw the Northern Du clan rushing over. They had clearly been walking ahead of them all this while, so how did they end up lagging behind them? In the beginning, Northern Du did not think anything of the barrier. Then, he quickly ended up like easternly. He realized that he was helpless towards this barrier. Easternly saw that Northern Du didn't succeed, and only then did her worried heart calm down. If the Northern Du clan was able to enter, she would really be deathly anxious. The people standing around discussed how to deal with it while she and easternly racked their brains anxiously as well. A barrier that they could not attack. It would be difficult if they wanted to break it forcefully. Suddenly, she heard the familiar sound of wheels and she raised her head and looked over. She saw Xian Qiuhe coming in from the opposite side. Her eyes shone. With Xian Qiuhe around, did she have to worry about not being able to enter? You're here too. She went up and smiled prettily. I didn't think that coming in from that area would lead me here as well. Xian Qiuhe used his divine senses to sweep the area and understood what was happening. There is a barrier here. Any attacks will get bounced back. Easternly said, everyone here has been trapped outside. You have to be able to enter, and then the ores inside will belong to whomever enters. This is an opportunity for your clan. She said it very nicely, as if she was really thinking for Xian Qiuhe's happiness alone. The Xian Qiuhe clansmen were also rather excited. The barrier might be a difficult obstacle to some people, but to Xian Qiuhe, it was no effort at all. So many ancient spirit beasts. Xian Qiuhe's light smile did not get any deeper. That's not necessarily a good thing. He was the only one who was able to enter and there were so many ores inside. How could it not be a good thing? Being able to enter as well as escape. Only then would it be a good thing. Xian Qiuhe said, there are so many people, do you think that they would be willing to remain where they were and do nothing? If they work together, even if it's us, we would not be able to escape. If he couldn't leave this place, no matter how many ores were here, it would be useless. Could it be that you have to share it with them? This is not something that can be solved just by sharing it with them. The greedy nature of a person should not be underestimated. Xian Qiuhe sighed. He sensed a familiar aura and scanned the area with his divine senses. He saw Sima Yu, Wu Lingyu and the rest. She was here as well. He remembered that she was able to naturally enter these types of barriers. What would she do? Would she enter? His attention inadvertently landed where she was. Sima Yu were discussing the situation here and had no plans to enter immediately. Xian Qiuhe saw that she did not head inside rashly and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lingyu, don't you feel like the stone statues here are a little strange? It was as if those were all alive. The murderous aura emanating from them seemed to grow even denser. Even if they were covered with a layer of stone, she could sense an eerie chill. It truly does feel different from the ones before. Wu Lingyu nodded, these feel like they're about to come to life. There are so many of them here. If they really came to life, I wonder if these people would be able to hold them back. In any case, they had already profited a lot from before. She thought about it, then decided to tell Feng Zhixing anyway. Leave? There are so many ancient spirit beast stone statues here. How could we just leave? The men from the Integral Moon Palace didn't understand. Feng Zhixing was not as surprised. He looked at Sima Yu, asking, why should we leave? Sima Yu told him what she felt and said, I rarely have these kinds of feelings. These ancient spirit beasts make me feel very uncomfortable. Feng Zhixing considered it, then instructed his men, you all should leave via the route we came. Wait for me outside. Young patriarch? Feng Xiujia and the others were stunned, but grew solemn when they saw his expression. They lowered their heads and replied, then we will wait for you, young patriarch, and the rest outside. After being with Sima Yu for a few days and seeing that Feng Zhixing was not as cold as he usually was, they almost forgot how he used to behave. As his subordinates, they had to remember not to refute any of his words. Yin Lang hesitated for a moment, then led his men away as well. Sima Yu was not the only one. He could also sense the peculiarities of this area. He also had the stone statues he obtained at the front of the cave, so they had also profited somewhat. These ancient spirit beasts filled him with a chill he couldn't shake, and it was like he was standing next to hell. One look into the eyes of the spirit beasts and it was like he was being trapped in a huge net. They could not continue to stay here. He finally listened to his intuition and did not plan to participate in this any longer. Once this incident was over, he would be immensely grateful for the decision he made back then and appreciate the advice that Sima Yu gave him. Sima Yu saw that those with Feng Zhixing had been called off, and only the three of them remained. Sima Yu let Little Golden stay and called out all her spirit beasts. Since they didn't plan to participate in the battle, the three of them chose a relatively covert position to observe the situation. The place where they chose was a place that was inclined upwards. You could clearly see what was happening below. It was also close if they wanted to escape through the exit. If anything happened, they could leave immediately. The only downside was that it was far from the mineral resources and they wouldn't be able to snatch for the treasures. However, they were not planning to snatch anything, so this position was just right. Wu Lingyu used a barrier to protect them. If anything suddenly happened, it would be easy to manage it. Little Golden was initially a little restless. However, with the barrier, it quietened down a lot. Sima Yu kept Little Golden safe in her embrace and asked, Little Golden, are you very afraid of the guys below? Not like how it was with Senior Vermilion Bird, but they still make me very uncomfortable. Little Golden said, there are very powerful ones among them as well. Then can those people defend themselves against them? Little Golden scanned the area, saying, these people won't even be enough for them to pick their teeth with. Sima Yu was shocked. Were those beasts that powerful? Yu, they're going to come out. Little Golden circled Sima Yu's palm, as if trying to find a safe space. Sima Yu looked at the stone statues down below. They didn't seem like they were going to emerge. She told Wu Lingyu and Feng Zhixing what Little Golden said, and the both of them were solemn. I heard a rumor before. Wu Lingyu stopped. It says that many spirit beasts were left behind in the ancient periods. They were dissatisfied with being wiped off from the present time, so they sealed themselves away. If they could survive 1,000 years, they would emerge and take over the world. I have also seen that in an ancient text before. Things from the ancient times were a lot more powerful than now. If we were to really encounter them, we would not be their match. Feng Zhixing sighed. Look at their numbers. Wu Lingyu replied. Sima Yu was stunned. If what they said was true, then didn't that mean that the continent would face even greater danger? Previous chapter. Next chapter.